Yes. So next up, we have Craig Merkley. Craig Merkley is part of the Conservation Services Unit team at the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. He is involved with coordinating local research and demonstration projects related to rural water quality and land stewardship. Today, Craig will provide an update on the new initiative called the Thorndale Demonstration Farm, which is located in Middlesex County near the village of Thorndale. Craig is a graduate of the University of Guelph, lots of University of Guelph alumni, and has worked in the agricultural extension for over 35 years. So welcome, Craig. Thank you.
We can see your presentation, Craig. We just can't hear you if you're speaking. But if you can full screen it, that would be great. If not, no worries.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, you got me now?
Yep.
Full screen?
Full screen. You're all
Okay,
good to go.
sorry about that, folks. I forgot to take it off mute before I went into it, and then I couldn't figure out how to get back, which is typical. Anyway, okay, thanks, Jess. I'll carry on here. Jessica asked me to talk about a project that we started up last year, and it's a special one for us that we call it the Thorndale Demonstration Farm. And I've titled this little talk, The Implementation and Evolution of Agricultural BMPs in the Thames River Watershed. And the reason I did that is that one of the folks I work with here, Brad Glaceman, and myself, we've been around for a little while, and I guess we've seen a lot of the evolution of BMPs over time. And we've always wanted to try and find a location where we could demonstrate all of the things that we've seen over the years in one location. And this opportunity came up last year when we took one of the Upper Thames properties near Thorndale and implemented a number of BMPs on it and everything we could in one spot, and then designed it so that it can be evolved over time to what people would like to see, or as the BMPs evolve as well. Now, as far as the location goes, I mentioned it's just west of Thorndale. If you know the Medway Road, it's just on what we call the Thorndale curve there. The property is about 60 acres in size of workable land. It's in that the polygon there. The land is rented. It's owned by the Upper Thames, as I said, and we rent it out on a basis for every 5 years. The purpose of a demonstration farm really is, again, to demonstrate agricultural BMPs that we've worked with over the years. But the big picture is, of course, trying to demonstrate things that will improve the soil health, which we've talked about all day today, but biodiversity, demonstrate some of the water quality components to what we've been working on, and of course show how the things that we're doing as far as the BMPs go benefit agricultural productivity, the economic side of that, and also mitigate climate change. So again, it's an opportunity to showcase these BMPs. An important thing for us is that we're always trying to work with new technology or new BMPs as they come along or develop them, and transfer those lessons to the farming public. And a key thing as well, in order to make anything successful, is having good partners. And we've had this in this situation with the ag industry, the local farm organizations, and also the neighbors that in the area as well have been very supportive of this. And it's an opportunity, again, to conduct field scale research with some of the agencies that we work with, as well as a number of academics that we've worked with over the years as well. So it's a good place to go and play. These are some of the features. These things have all been talked about today, so I won't go into them too much, but I'll just quickly, the controlled drainage, we haven't talked about that yet, but George went into the ag erosion control structures, the inlets, windbreaks and plantings, biodiversity, cover crops, fence rows and rotations, field management, all that type of thing we poured into the planning and implementation of this on this project. So to get things going, again, we started last year in 2021. We looked at the property and said, okay, what do we need to do to increase the farmability of this land? And there was a number of things that we had to do, first of all, in preparation. And one of the ones was looking at things like you see on the screen there now, that we had some isolated large willow trees in the middle of nowhere, which were just a pain to work around. So we had to deal with those. And then as well, there's George talked a lot about the issues of erosion. On this farm, there are issues of erosion. A lot of rills and side hill erosion. You can see those arrows there indicating where some of those side hill erosions are, and some of the major ruts down the middle of the farm as well, where it got to the point where you could not farm across it anymore, and vegetation was growing up, woody vegetation was growing up in there as well. So there's a lot of things that we wanted to fix up. And another thing as well is along the windbreaks and some of the woody fence rows, we just felt that there's a number of things that we could demonstrate to do along there that would improve the farmability of the property and just show that windbreaks and woody fence rows can work in concert with modern agriculture. And that's where we started. Last winter, we got the chainsaws out and went along that fence row and cleaned it up. And we took down the stuff that's overhanging the field that would get in the way of some modern equipment that would be used on this property. And we will manage it that way as well. We kept the main trees but cleaned it up so that you could farm right next to it. And just really, as this was part of our demonstration, showing that this can be done. You don't need to take down all of these things just to increase the farmability of it, but there's some benefits to keeping these things in place as well. But we did compromise. We did take some areas out of remove some trees from the areas, and this is just a shot of taking some of those stumps out and pulling the roots out and removing them. And just, well, this is me. I just thought it was kind of cool to have those old stumps and put them along the fence row, just as a bit of a demonstration. I don't know, when you go up and around Tiny Township up that way, you see these old fence rows with stumps in them. It looks kind of cool. So I thought that looked kind of neat. So we put them along the fence row there. But there's about 20-30 acres of bush as part of this property as well, and some of it is not squared up very well at all, and there's some kind of areas that little points that are not productive from a bush standpoint, but also are just we just felt that would be a good demonstration of perhaps how we could compromise with some of the issues like that on a property. So we squared those areas up and to increase the farmability of as well. And just as a note, with these logs that we took down, we donated all of those logs. A fellow from a company called Big Ass Slabs came in and took them, and he goes and makes great big tables with them and so on and so forth. So they went to a good cause. I mentioned some of the erosion issues on the property. You can see here that there's a major cut going down through the middle of the whole thing. Open water running down through there. And again, at one point that the farm, you could farm right across there, but over time, the rill erosion turned to gully erosion. And something had to be done to deal with that. And so this is what we did on this property. We wanted to demonstrate some of the structural erosion control work that you can do on a farm. And George has gone into this quite a bit, but I'll just touch on it again. This is a narrow base berm that's being constructed. You pull the topsoil back, build it as subsoil, and then top dress it again with topsoil. And it was nicely located along that woody fence row there, so it didn't interfere with the farming practices that would happen on this property as well. And you can see that there's a Hickenbottom standpipe there as an outlet as part of it. So we've got demonstrating a narrow base berm in the construction of it, and that's something that we talk about during field days. Oh, and there's a shot, I guess, from of the thing in action, which people don't often see. That's from a storm last September where we had quite a bit of rain, and you can see it ponds water over over a 24-hour period and takes it away to a safe outlet. And there's a shot of a cross section that I think George showed as well. And there's a low end on this thing, just in case you do get a giant storm, it will go around the low end and save the integrity of it as well. Yeah, the side hill erosion was also there. I think that shot there in the inset I showed earlier on, you just see a bit of a rill there. And we wanted to build a broad-based berm, which also George talked about, and or a farm, what I call is a farm over berm, because you farm over it. And it's the shot of a farm over berm in another location that we did a few years ago. It's very subtle on the landscape, but it provides the same function as a narrow base berm. It's just, again, like George said, it takes a lot more soil to build it, but you can farm over it. So there are advantages to these things. And just quickly here, shot from up around Lucan, there's a farm, Hugh Dietrich's farm, one of his farms, but you can see the complex slope here, they're going all over the place. And in Hugh's case here, these were a lot of rills going cuts going in every direction. So narrow base berms wasn't really an option because they're very difficult to work around. So these are broad base berms that are put in with blind inlets. So you can just work right over them. But if you notice in the far distance there in the green field, that's a traditional narrow base berms, and that was more suited to that property there. So there's two types of berms in action quite close by there. Just a note about the blind inlet that we did put in as a demonstration. We put in, again, the standpipe on the narrow base berm. We wanted to demonstrate a blind inlet here. This is a shot of Ken McCutcheon installing the blind inlet with filter cloth and perforated tile, and then filling her up with stone. And then there's a shot of the end product there during a rainstorm, and it just sucks it down and takes it away. But you can drive right over it. The one thing I'll mention here again is that the benefit of a blind inlet and broad-based berms, you can work right over it, but you know it's a pipe sticking up in the middle of nowhere. Well, we put that in. That's actually a monitoring port. We wanted to, in the future, if there's an opportunity to actually monitor how, from a water quality standpoint, how this type of an inlet functions compared to a narrow base berm, which is this shot here along the fence line again. And so we put in a monitoring port on the downstream side of the structures that we could put like an ISCO down and monitor, say, the water quality during a rainstorm, just to get an idea of how these things function over time. And that's just a shot of the before and the after of that particular cut that I think I showed you earlier. But the big component that I haven't talked about yet is we tiled the whole thing, but we did it in conjunction with some partners in industry, LICO and Ken McCutcheon, Van Gorp, and there's some tile people that donated tile for it. And we installed a controlled drainage, half the field and half the farm in controlled drainage system, and the other half in a conventional free drain system. And this is interesting. So it's there's the agri drain units in the inset there of what those are to stop they're placed on the tiles to hold the water back and let release over a certain period of time. So you can see that half the farm was again on the controlled drainage, and then the other half is systematically tiled. So we could demonstrate that as part of the demonstration of the farm, but also we had the ability to monitor how all of that worked as well. Now, as far as the controlled drainage go, I know that most of you know what it is, but it does have some potential benefits that we would like to look at over time. There's the benefits of, from an economic standpoint, it can hold water into the field, that perhaps there's yield increases that are being demonstrated in the States. But the big one is the nutrient runoff part of it, that by holding the water back at certain times of the year, you're reducing the phosphorus that is lost to the system. And there's some interesting data that is just really coming hot off the presses. Well, I heard it today, actually, which is showing some very interesting good news in that department with some other research locally. The big one for me is the flow augmentation. I'm just very curious about the ability of this type of a system to hold water back and release it slowly and not get these big flushes maybe that we see in the streams and rivers that we lose everything all at once. So there's a number of potential benefits for this type of a system. There's a shot from the air of the work being done. The free drain is being installed on the left, and the control drain is not installed yet on the right. But those are the locations of those agri-drain units. Took 10 of them to get it in place. You need one about every 18 inches as the fall drops, so that's why there's so many of them there. And that's a unit going in with Brad supervising the installation of it. The inside is the shot of those gates that rise up and down. And there's Mike Funk demonstrating the units on the farm during a field day that we had last fall. I mentioned monitoring capability. There was always some interest in the water quality part of these things, how they work out. So how we did it, we installed 2 headers. So the one header is just dedicated to the controlled drainage part of it, and the other header is just dedicated to the free drain. So if we want to monitor it at some point, we have the ability to do that from a water quality standpoint. So that's a feature that we built into the system that maybe some academic or whoever will take up in the future if they want to look into this type of thing. While I have this slide up here, again, we talked about biodiversity, the need for that on the farms a bit more perhaps. We are working with our neighbors, DeMar Aggregates next door. They wanted to be involved in some way. Well, they thought that perhaps they could take that area at the top end of the screen there where the arrows are and actually do a pollinator planting all along that one edge of the field there. And they had a fellow that was interested in honey production. So we welcomed that. And we're actually going to get the 4-H kids to come out and help plant pollinators plants in the spring. And at the back end there was just some land that just wasn't good. And so we put that into a block planting for trees. But a big part of it again is the residue management, the land management. We are doing cover crops. It is rented property. We look at it through the soil health lens. We want cover crops. We put in check strips already to see how cover crops work out. There's all sorts of potential for looking at that and examining them, answering some of the questions that have been brought up over the course of the day. But residue management is important. We want a rotation, so we have a 5-year agreement, and we're also using profitability mapping on this property as well, component there to help demonstrate and look at things. So quickly, there's a kiosk where we've got things laid out that people could come in and look at it. We've hosted a couple events there already last year. We have some partners in the drainage community that have helped out, as I said. And some of the major funding is coming from Environment Canada and also from OMAFRA through the COA program and also the local clean water program, which is important to mention that the local municipalities have kicked in to this as well to make this happen. So I'll quickly stop there. There's some links, and that's where I am at again. If anybody wants to look at videos or photographs, and other blog related information on our website, those are some of the links there. So I'll stop there, Jess, and if you want to take questions or flip on, where you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Craig. Tracy Ryan had said that having a farmer-centric approach to the demonstration site really enhances the credibility of the demonstration. So that's really cool that you're considering how do we make this demonstration farm the most realistic it can be from a farming perspective. If anyone else has questions, feel free to jump in. My only question would be, does Upper Thames or do you guys have any plans for another outdoor event this summer? Do you hope to have something that people can attend later this year?
We hope to. I think the whole idea of the thing is that we would have it would be open on a regular basis to do demonstrations. And again, last year we had 2 of them, but I think as time goes along and we find interesting things to demonstrate, we will, of course, work in further field days as part of the project as well. That's an important part, is transferring the information that we're seeing and learning there out to the farming public. So yes.
Great. And where would people find that information about those events?
Well, we got to get organized first. So I would just say that we would get it out through social media when the time comes.
Perfect. Thank you.